Have you ever felt like running away from something you were supposed to do? Like a task that seemed too hard, a moment of fear, or just feeling unqualified? What if I told you that even in the midst of our reluctance, God's plans are still greater than anything we could imagine? This is the story of Jonah, a man who tried to run away from God. But as you'll see, it's impossible to outrun the creator of the universe. Stick around, because I promise you this story will give you a new perspective on obedience, mercy, and second chances. It all begins in a town called Gath-Hepher, near the region of Nazareth, in ancient Israel. Jonah, a prophet, receives a command directly from God. Now, this wasn't a small task. God said to Jonah, "Go to the great city of Nineveh and preach against it, because its wickedness has come up before me." Nineveh, located in what is now modern-day Iraq, was the capital of Assyria and known widely for its violence, hostility, and cruelty. To Jonah, Nineveh represented everything he feared and despised. And what did Jonah do? He ran. Not just metaphorically. He literally tried to escape his divine assignment. He headed to Joppa, a port city, and found a ship bound for Tarshish, which was in the opposite direction of Nineveh. Tarshish was about as far west as Jonah could go at that time, possibly in Spain. Jonah wasn't just trying to avoid Nineveh. He was making a point. He didn't want to do what God had asked him. But here's the thing about God's plans. They're unstoppable. Jonah boards the ship, and at first his escape seems to be going well. But then a massive storm comes, one of such severity the sailors fear for their lives. These sailors, men who likely didn't worship the God of Israel, turned to their gods, desperate for deliverance. As the winds howled, the waves tossed, and chaos consumed the sea, the captain found Jonah below deck, asleep. "Get up and call on your God," the captain shouted. "Maybe your God will take notice of us so that we will not perish." Realizing they needed to find out why this calamity had struck, the sailors cast lots, a technique often used to discern explanations or answers. The lot fell on Jonah. Faced with the reality of what was happening, Jonah confessed, "I am a Hebrew, and I worship the Lord, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the dry land," he said. "This storm is because of me. Throw me into the sea, and it will become calm." Jonah chose to sacrifice himself rather than keep running, and the lives of these sailors hung in the balance. Initially, the sailors resisted. They tried rowing back to land, but the storm only grew worse. Finally, with no other choice, they prayed to Jonah's God. "O Lord, please do not hold us accountable for taking this man's life," they pleaded. Then they threw Jonah into the sea, and immediately the raging storm ceased. Imagine their astonishment. At that moment, these pagan sailors turned to worship the God of Israel, offering sacrifices and praising his name. And Jonah? Jonah sank beneath the waves. He thought his story was over, but it was far from it. In the depths of the ocean, God provided Jonah with a miraculous intervention. A giant fish swallowed him whole. For 3 days and 3 nights, Jonah sat in the belly of this fish, a living tomb. Imagine the silence, the smells, the realization of what had just happened. Jonah prayed. He acknowledged God's power, his mercy, and Jonah's own need for grace. From the belly of the fish, he cried out, "In my distress I called to the Lord, and he answered me. From deep in the realm of the dead, I called for help, and you listened to my cry." Jonah understood this was a moment of repentance, and his prayer concluded with a pledge. "What I have vowed, I will make good. I will say, salvation comes from the Lord." Then, as suddenly as he'd been swallowed, Jonah was spit out onto dry land. His second chance began right then and there. This time Jonah obeyed. He traveled to Nineveh, a city so large it took 3 days to walk across it. Jonah proclaimed the message God gave him. 40 more days and Nineveh will be overthrown. It wasn't elaborate, it wasn't passionate. It was straightforward and to the point. And something incredible happened. The people of Nineveh listened. From the king down to the poorest citizen, they believed God's warning. They fasted, wore sackcloth, and turned away from their evil ways. Even the king decreed, "Let everyone call urgently on God. Let them give up their evil ways and their violence. Who knows? God may yet relent, and with compassion turn from his fierce anger so that we will not perish." And God did. He saw their genuine repentance and had mercy on them, sparing the city. You'd think Jonah would be overjoyed to see such a transformation, but he wasn't. He was angry. "Isn't this what I said, Lord, when I was still at home?" Jonah complained. "That is why I tried to forestall this by fleeing to Tarshish. I knew that you are a gracious and compassionate God, slow to anger and abounding in love, a God who relents from sending calamity. Now, Lord, take away my life, for it is better for me to die than to live." Jonah's frustration wasn't just about Nineveh. It was about his own struggle with who deserves God's mercy. Jonah wanted grace for himself, but struggled to accept that same grace extended to his enemies. God taught Jonah a final lesson through a simple yet profound experience. As Jonah sat outside Nineveh, sulking and waiting to see if destruction would still come, God caused a plant to grow and provide him with shade. Jonah was pleased with the plant, but the next day God sent a worm to destroy it, and scorching winds and blazing sun beat down on Jonah. In his misery, Jonah wished to die. And God asked, "Is it right for you to be angry about the plant?" Jonah replied, "Yes, it is, and I'm so angry I wish I were dead." But the Lord said, "You have been concerned about this plant, though you did not tend it or make it grow. It sprang up overnight and died overnight. And should I not have concern for the great city of Nineveh, in which there are more than 120,000 people who cannot tell their right hand from their left, and also many animals?" Jonah's story ends with a question, leaving us to reflect on its deeper meaning. God's grace is not limited by borders, ethnicity, or human understanding. His mercy is for everyone, every Ninevite, every sailor, and yes, every Jonah. We all have moments when we run from God, but Jonah's story reminds us that God never gives up on us. He pursues us, transforms us, and most importantly, invites us to be part of his greater plan. What would you do if faced with a call from God that challenges everything you know? Would you run, or would you trust in his plan? The story of Jonah and the whale challenges us to reflect on our own faith, obedience, and perspective of God's mercy. Remember, no matter how far we run, God is always there, offering second chances and drawing us closer to him. Ensure the expanded voice-over is even more entertaining, but that it maintains the same style, tone, and key points as the original.